Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with a little chat, one of what will probably be many, on a topic that simply fascinates me, and that's humor in music. There is no greater quality and none that I think is more difficult to capture and capture well. Now, I have for you two little keyboard pieces. They are, in my opinion, the funniest pieces of keyboard music written in the entire 18th century. They are hilarious. And I want to talk a little bit about what makes them so funny. I mean, in general terms, because, nothing is less funny than explaining a joke, right? Either you get it or you don't get it. And if you don't get it, explaining it isn't going to help. It really isn't. The wonderful thing about musical jokes is that they don't involve words, but they do involve certain qualities inherent to the language of music, which you really need to be, frankly, a good listener in order to get them. Either you understand what the language of music is telling you, or you don't. It's like any other joke in any other language. Now, these two pieces are by Haydn, of course, and C.P.E. Bach. And I want to start by talking about C.P.E. Bach because his case is in some respects the more interesting. Haydn was always known for his sense of humor. C.P.E. Bach quite a bit less so. C.P.E. Bach, was known for the, infansam style, the sentimental, the emotional style, and especially for writing pieces of almost hysterically crazy opposed emotions, but with an emphasis on the tragic, the sad, the violent, the mournful, the incredibly expressive, darker emotions. That's what composers get cred for. You know what I mean? And I think that's so cheap. I really do. It's so easy to be tragic. Nothing is easier than being tragic and miserable. Well, miserable anyway. I guess real Greek-style tragedy, that's another issue too. But dark, sad, pathos, simple. Pick a minor key and just sit in it longer than you have any right to, and sadness is the inevitable result. How much work does that take? None. But humor, oh, that's another quality. That requires an incredible sense of musical timing. It requires the ability to juxtapose contrasting elements in a way that's going to strike people as funny because it's incongruous. It's mastering the art of incongruity without letting the music fall apart completely. That is a gift. Especially the timing aspect. Either you have it or you don't. You're either funny or you're not, And C.P.E. Bach was funny. He really could be. But one of the ways he became funny, and I just want to talk about a couple aspects of this, was by finding not just happy and sad, but by finding strange, by writing music that sounds odd. And why does it sound odd? You can't really explain, but you hear it and you go, that's odd. And that's one of the things that allows you to create musical humor. So I'm going to play you a couple samples of things, and it'll explain exactly what I mean. Hearing is believing. The first thing is a tiny movement from his sonatas for women, the lady sonatas, the sonata for Damen, as they say in the business, for the dames, sonatas for the dames. Now, these are supposed to be light, easy, not too complicated sonatas, but this being C.P.E. Bach, he did not leave out some of his music's quirkier qualities. And I want to play you the last sonata in the series of 6. It's in A major, and the entire first movement, which is only like a minute and a half long. It's very short. The whole sonata is 6 minutes. They're not long works because they're for ladies, and ladies have short attention spans. Well, supposedly. Anyway, there's something weird about this movement. It is so quirky. And one of the things it makes it so quirky, it has two basic contrasting ideas, but both use the same accompaniment, which is just a really simple little left hand bloop, bloop, bloop. I mean, it couldn't be simpler. The right hand does other things, but it's fascinating. And when you listen to this on the piano, try and figure out what year he wrote it in. It's absolutely timeless, this music, because it's so harmonically interesting. Now, these performances I'm going to play will come from the complete keyboard works on 26 fun-filled CDs on the Hensler label with Anna Maria Markovina. I love this set. I love this set because, essentially I was the person who suggested that they do it. That they emphasize some works by C.P.E. Bach with my colleague, my dear friend in Germany, Dr. Sören Meyer-Eller, and he being a genius at organizing things and taking simple conversations and turning them into musical reality. He, who was working at the time for Hensler or with Hensler, managed to produce this, one of the great boxes in the history of humanity. Really important, the only complete C.P.E. Bach keyboard works. And that is quite a legacy. It's as important a legacy as Scarlatti or his dad, Bach, or Beethoven, or anybody else as a keyboard composer. So listen to this one movement, and it doesn't even matter. I'm not playing it for you because it's funny. I'm playing it because it's odd. And it's incorporating the oddness that makes things funny. And when you put it in the right context, this is just deliciously quirky music. Have a listen. Again, that was the first movement of the A major sonata in the Damen sonatas, the sonatas for the performance by ladies. I think that's Wotken 54. I mean, I could look at this and be absolutely sure because I know exactly where it is in the set. Let me see here. Here it is. Disc number 7. Yes, Wotken 54. And it's just an amazing little work. 54, number 6 in A major. Isn't that music incredible? I mean, doesn't it sound like nothing you've ever heard before? It's that kind of originality, that kind of incongruity that allows composers to be funny. Because you can't just be genially happy, and you don't want to be miserable when you want to be funny. You want to be different, and different in a way that people find curiously appealing, but humorous. So now we're going to get to the funny bit. Now, C.P.E. Bach wrote a series of character pieces, and character pieces in the style of the French composers, such as Couperin, who C.P.E. Bach admired. Remember, Couperin wrote books and books and books of harpsichord music, and every piece has a little title. And these pieces are character sketches. They were called character pieces. They're based on either people or things. They could be birds. It could be, a description of some sort of programmatic happening. In this case, most of these pieces are character sketches. He labeled them in French, la so-and-so, la damn so-and-so, la somebody. And this one is called Lolly Rupalich. Nobody knows what a Lolly Rupalich is. It's L'Alyrupalich or something like that. Lolly-Rupalich. But it was originally called La Bach, leading us to believe that this could be a self-portrait. Or some kind of, or a portrait of a family member, maybe his brother, who he was teaching at the time, the youngest Bach, the English Bach, whatever his name was, Johann Christian, or one of the young Bach guy in London he went to. He taught Mozart for 5 minutes. Anyway, doesn't matter. The point is, this 2.5-minute piece is hilarious. And that's all I need to say about it, other than it sounds like a piece of sort of post-Baroque rock and roll. It really sounds like rock and roll. I mean, it has sort of the same rhythm as the Beatles' I Want to Hold Your Hand. You just have to hear it. It's so weird. And when you play it on the piano, especially, it sounds like it could have been written yesterday. Take a listen to this. It was written in 1755, and you've never heard anything like it. Here we go. Amazing, huh? I mean, think about it for a second. When C.P.E. wrote this, his dad had just passed away, having not quite completed the Art of Fugue 5 years earlier. And then he's writing this. Could you imagine J.S. Bach writing something like that? No way. But what are the things that make it so funny? Well, there's that funny ending, obviously. Just sort of stops in mid-phrase. But it has a couple of traits that we'll find in a lot of humorous music. First of all, it has a really catchy initial idea that comes back in all sorts of crazy ways when you'd least expect it, in different keys and in different contexts. It has sudden pauses that, you don't know what's going to happen next, and whatever does happen next is the thing you probably least expect. So in addition to questions of timing, of figuring out when to put in the pauses or how to play with the rhythm and your expectations, it also plays with your memory, with your ability to immediately grasp a catchy little idea and hear how it's different every time you hear it. that's part of what is going to make the thing funny. But it's just a marvelous little work, isn't it? I mean, I use it as a ringtone on my cell phone, and you should too. It's absolutely terrific. It makes a great ringtone. And if people ask me, people have come up to me and just said, gee, who wrote that? Who wrote that? When did they write that? When you tell them, oh, it was C.P.E. Bach in 1755, they go, huh? What? It's incredible, just incredible. And C.P.E. Bach gets no credit for being funny, because funny is not a quality that we tend to value culturally, and I think that's tragic. I really do. I think it's just outrageous. So the next example is Haydn's Fantasia in C major. Now, this is a very late work of Haydn. It was one of his very last keyboard works. It's absolutely delightful. It's written not for harpsichord. C.P.E. Bach probably was written for a harpsichord. Oh, by the way, the C.P.E. Bach actually has a name, the kind of piece it is. It's called a murky. Believe it or not, M-U-R-K-Y, Murky. That's the German name, too. A Murky was just a dance-type piece over a repeating octave bass, just ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba throughout. It's deliberately primitive. That's also why it sounds a bit like rock and roll. I mean, in terms of the harmonic basis for it, there's no counterpoint in there. But that's a murky. If you ever hear someone talk to you about a dance called a murky, you now know what one is. Anyway, this Haydn thing that we're going to hear, I have to find what disc it's on too. This is Yeno Yando's set of the complete sonatas. And let's see, it was. That's all I can tell you is that it was, because what it was, I have to find out. Wait. It's on one of these discs, unless I left it in my stereo, which is always a possibility. Oh, no, there it is. Fantasia in C major, also called Capriccio in C major, Hoboken 12, number 4. Now, Haydn was, of course, hilariously funny. He actually wrote a set of variations on a tune called It Takes 8 Men to Castrate a Wild Boar. So, anybody who would use that as a set of variations has definitely got a sense of humor. I mean, of course, the wild boar wasn't so happy about it, but we all can be. Now, this was one of his late works. It sounds kind of like a greatly enlarged, in terms of scope, Scarlatti sonata. And it has many things, although it's about 6 minutes long. It's quite a bit longer than the C.P.E. Bach. It has a lot of things in common with it. And that's why I wanted to play them together, because you'll hear that to create humor, they draw on some of the same ideas. The first thing is a sort of generalized rondo structure. That is, you have an initial very catchy idea that keeps coming back in all kinds of unexpected ways, whether complete or in bits. And it changes its harmonization, it changes its register, it changes all kinds of things. But it's very, very recognizable instantly. Now, because this is a longer piece, it has more ideas in it. There's the opening theme, there's a bravura flourish, there's a wonderful little fanfare written in horn, for horns. It's really for horns. It's played up on the piano, obviously, but it's horn music. When you hear it, you'll go, horns. It sounds like horns. And that pops in, usually unchanged, in all kinds of odd little places. And then, of course, both pieces have sort of a big bravura wind-up that's immediately defeated by a comic ending. So, there are commonalities in the way that we use music to try and create humorous situations. But this is just a delightful piece, and most people don't know it at all. It's as good as unknown. I mean, most of Haydn's keyboard music is as good as unknown, which is a pity because it's great. It's better than Mozart's. I got to tell you, not the concertos. Mozart's concertos are non-pareil, but Haydn's solo keyboard music is vastly more interesting because it wasn't just instructional music, as most of Mozart's was. I mean, there's some Mozart that isn't, obviously. I mean, don't quote me on this. You know what I mean. But there's more Haydn solo keyboard music that's of a generally higher level than Mozart's. And so it really does not deserve to be neglected. But again, a lot of it is funny. There's some sonatas that are absolutely screamingly hilarious, but those are better known. And I want you to hear this entire piece played by Yeno Yando on the Naxos set of the complete sonatas. And here it is, the Capriccio or Fantasia in C major. amazing piece, isn't it? Fun, just fun. Tons and tons and tons of fun, and full of unexpected twists and turns and little harmonic angles. And, it's not necessarily laugh out loud funny, although I think some of it actually is. I really do. But it is joyous, witty funny. It's like dry humor, hearing somebody who's just, really, really an amusing raconteur, that kind of thing. So I wanted to share these pieces because I think it's always good to relax and have a good time and have a laugh, but also to think a little bit, to think about all the things that we can do with the language of music that these great composers did that don't get the credit that they deserve. And I think it's our obligation to remedy that fact. So keep on listening, folks. Thank you for joining me with this little chat about the two funniest keyboard works of the entire 18th century. Take care.